So welcome to this week's weekly watch list. We've literally just finished it off. We didn't really see too much movement in the markets last week. We did have a couple of nice moves though. Managed to get a couple of good positions in and closed at around about 6% profit. So that is always good for the portfolio. But we're going to go again and start with the US dollar. It's looking pretty interesting now. Let's go back out to the weekly and let's see what happened last week so we can get a better understanding here as we scale down further. So overall, it was looking a bearish week. We did say that we were looking to get that pullback. We thought in and around this area, if we were to find more buyers, it would be here, but we actually crashed below. And now it looks like we're going to hit that 12050 and we're going to break down the reasons for thinking this. So going down to the daily, you can see we had a nice day on Wednesday, a nice bearish day, and then we created, if we go down to the 4 hour and the 1 hour, you'll see this supply zone. Now I do think the market will revisit this, and I do think it will revisit this. It's nicely in line with the 50 EMA, and of course when we scale down to the 4 hour, we're going to show you from top to bottom. If we were to take this move here where we've seen price action not break these highs but continued that move down, so this was the top of the leg here all the way down to the bottom. Okay, so we have the bottom of the leg here, and that gave us these fib levels. Now you can see here in and amongst that supply zone we have that 0.618, the golden fib. So as another confluence to add to a potential short should price action come back up into this zone and then push down further. Now of course we can't trade the US dollar, but we're going to take that of course into consideration with the correlations moving down our watch list. So if we just quickly go to 𝗙cie𝗶𝗍𝗀 and let's just start in a daily, okay, because we're going to get a good enough view to be able to go through these fairly quickly and get still the same understanding. So again, there's nothing really too much happening for me right now. I was thinking that we were going to get some sort of push and pull movement. Like you see here, this is of course extending out the way. We are seeing bigger moves higher, we're seeing bigger moves lower, so it is really hard to dictate where price action is going to go. Of course, I would say that we were bullish. Come back down, we'd fail really to get below this area, around about that 87,800 mark, 87,500. Price action printed a nice double bottom, okay, and since then we've pushed up, we've broken that counter trend. Of course, this was on a lower time frame. So if we were just, for example, to take this here, is this being the touch points, marrying up these three here, and then of course the fourth one, and then just falling short. So we've broken this trend, okay, so we've broken this counter trend, and now we are in a bit of a funny pattern. We're seeing price action being respected with the 50 EMA, but we're also creating new highs and we're also breaking these lows, so we're not really having a clear-cut indication. So for me, from right now, compared to some of the other pairs that we're looking at, I will definitely still have this on the watch list, but I'm not going to pay any more attention right now. I'm going to really keep an eye on it for a little bit more development, and then we're going to scale down to the lower time frames to see if we can get possible entries later on in the week. But for me right now, there are other pairs that are producing quite good opportunities. So again, if we go all the way out to the weekly for Euro Swiss, you can see we're just hitting a nice area of support, but the volume, the bullish volume that you can see here was looking pretty good, okay, but on Friday here you can see we've had that massive rejection again away from this naked level of what is now resistance, because it's been respected. We might actually see price action close here on the Friday and then come back up again to retest nicely in line with that 50 EMA to come back down into this massive area of support. Again, it's a little bit unreliable because we've had three massive pushes away, but we have no idea whereabout in this zone that we will see that area of support. But I do think that we are going to take that next leg down back into this zone, and then price action will have to be reassessed, because right now you see here we did have a massive rejection. But you see also on the 4 hour after scaling down that we do have, again this is very of course messy, but it's just to give you a rough idea what's actually happening. Price action has been squeezed. Okay, price action has been squeezed and we've had this nice leg up. So again, I was talking about the volume on the daily. We did have good volume on that day. Thursday I think it was, we had good volume, nice push up in comparison with all the other daily candlesticks. But on Friday we printed a shooting star. Now a shooting star of course signals that sellers are gaining control and have rejected the buyers, especially coming away from this nice area of untested resistance. But now price action is getting squeezed. We've really failed to get anywhere close to retracing this bullish move up, and now it could be anticipated that we're going to break out this pattern to the upside. So if we were to do that, of course we would be anticipating the break and we need to see that break first. But this area of resistance of course is causing a lot of problems because we had that huge rejection. But again, we are hitting that daily 50 EMA, so that is another confluence that we're going to get another leg up. We're being squeezed in the form of a pennant. Again, another confluence that we're going to break out and have another leg up. But again, this is a nice area of resistance, so we're going to really need to wait and see. Is this going to hold? Are we going to create a double top and then come back down into this area of support? I would say 1.03000 would be a nice flat area for the market to visit again. But again, we're going to have to monitor the lower time frames. We're going to have to wait and see what's going to happen with this pennant. So a nice position you could potentially take in, depending on of course what time frame you like to get in on, and of course your trading strategy. Some people like to trade a bit longer term, some people like to trade shorter term. So if you were anticipating a breakout like so, you might be able to get some form of break and retest, and then targets would just be at the top here, something nice and flat, 1.05000 right to the top here, because we know that the chances of getting a bullish break up would be quite high. Now I would only take it to here because of course this is a really well respected area of resistance. Now we could even just hold at something like this, a nice small area of resistance, so you might want to take your targets a little bit shorter, and if you do get that push and pull, you would just go down to the 15 minute, the half an hour, and then you would try and get your entry. Make sure it was a good risk to reward and you could get yourself a nice trade. But overall, for Euro Swiss, I would say that we of course have been bearish for quite a while. We will be looking to cover some of this ground, but can we get above this area of resistance would all be the things that I'm looking at. If we can't, then I would definitely look to be short and back down to these lows. But that's just my thoughts on Euro Swiss, Euro GBP. Again, I'm just keeping an eye on this just for the sheer fact that we had such a massive move from this many months ago. And then of course once you scale down, this darker red, like we've explained in other lessons and other videos, is of course a 4 hour supply zone, this being the full supply zone of the preceding daily candle. You can see we're really struggling to break below, but price action is sticking, and when price action sticks like this, typically it will break through. But then on the other hand, one could argue, you can see here we are just, that's terrible, getting a bit lower, and then now we're coming back up, printing a new high, a new lower high, so a higher high, breaking these highs. But again, it's too early to be saying that it's bullish or bearish because it can be both ways. You can see that price action's come back up and failed to break these highs, so you could say, you know, price action is on its way back down again, and then of course this nice bearish volume towards the end of Friday's close. So for me right now, I'm just keeping an eye on it. I'm not really going to speculate too much, but it is on the watch list. Maybe you have something different, but I am just keeping an eye on it for the sheer fact of the explosive volume that came from this. When was this? So the 25th of February 2020. Now again, of course, this could have something to do with pandemics and things like that, but again, still like to keep an eye on it. So Euro USD, again you can see what we were looking at here. Nothing's really moved any further on this yet. If we just quickly see what we've been looking for. So again, this was that ascending wedge that we did anticipate the breakout. We did anticipate we were going to come back down into an area, because this is a big area of resistance. You can see it's a big area of resistance. So you would expect price action to come back down and retest to say, okay, do we confirm the break and are we respecting the break? And then if we do respect the break, you will see a lot of people looking to take price action up to the next leg. Now I would say this next leg would probably be 1.16. I think it's a nice number that we could be taking targets to. But bearing in mind, we have to get a really big, strong reaction in here, and it has to be in the form of a bullish bias. And if it's in the form of a bullish bias, then of course we can hop on and look to take that next leg up. We maybe even just want to take our targets to where there's a little double tops being printed on the 4 hour. But again, I do think it has real potential to go to 1.16. But again, this is just speculation. We're going to have to wait and see what happens when the market comes out on the open. GBP Aussie, it's on the watch list, but again, I was looking for a pullback before anything, because we've created new highs and we've come back, pulled back into here. We missed that initial push up, but now I'm expecting price action to maybe break through. But again, this, just with the sheer volume that's went into this area of resistance now, but you can see we are hitting the same area again. Let's just remove some of these. We're hitting that same area again. So it's just going to be a case of monitoring this. I was anticipating we had that pullback and then push up into this area of resistance, which we did, but again, right now it's not really leaving us with too much options, because we've got a double top, but we've also, just before that double top, got a really strong daily candle into that area of resistance. We have created new highs, so we might even go up higher here. So right now I'm a little bit undecided on this, but I'm going to keep it on the watch list anyway. GBP JPY, again, we had that move away like we anticipated. We just didn't come back to that 1 hour supply zone. You can see we fell just short. Thought I was going to come back up in here. Only needed to pull back this far, and then we've completely tanked. So we're going to have to reanalyze. You can see here, this was of course a nice area of demand, but of course looking at this has also been an area of demand that's touched nicely, so we might actually just be on our way back up now. This might be the case, so we might actually be taking price action back up again. We might actually take price action back up to 157,500 maybe. But looking at this, I do think we might still come back down again for one final touch in line with the overall trend. So short-term bearish, long-term bullish. I do think we are just pulling back for that next leg. You can see when things go up this steep, we have to come back the way. We have to come back, cover some of that ground before then inviting some more buyers to take more long positions to drive price action back up. But again, we would have to break these highs, but after that I do think we will hit 158, and then once we hit 158, really the sky is the limit. We can go to all the way up to 163, bang in the middle of this supply zone you can see here, or this resistance, sorry. And again, it's a really nice area of resistance. It's been respected well and had massive pushes away. So I would kind of look to see price action go back up towards an area like this once we do get that pullback. I do think we're going to pull back ever so slightly, maybe in an area like this, and then find some more buyers. But we're watching GBP JPY closely this week. GBP USD now. Again, something similar. I'm not going to bore you with that. You can see what we're looking at. It's almost identical. We will look at the US dollar to make sure, is this going to be the pair that we decide to take this position on, or do we take GBP JPY, NZD CAD? Again, I do think we're going to hit 0.85,000 flat. Respected off that 50 EMA on the hourly very well. But we have created new highs, but one could say that we are just simply retracing this move here and then hit that 0.5 fib nicely. That's a nice area of resistance here. It's now been created. We've hit that, and now it does look likely we're going to hit 0.85,000 flat. So I would just be going to the lower time frames and see if I can get an entry. But if I was, let's see, what's this? I want to remove that, and I want to be going to. So if I was, I'd probably be looking for price action maybe to come back up to maybe something like this. Maybe come back up in an area like this. As you can see here, we have printed a double bottom almost now, because on Friday we've closed, we failed to break these lows, we pushed all the way back down, the buyers had a nice control, pushed them back above up this low. So I do think we might get a small little buy move up into this area and then make that next leg down. So I'd be looking to get in or around somewhere near here if price action decides to do so. So that's all I'm really looking at for NZD CAD, USD Swiss, a couple more USD Swiss. Again, you can see here real nice areas of the market that's been respected well. We could be coming all the way back up to visit here. So I am noticing that, and I do think that we are going to see 0.92400. So I am anticipating some buys back up. But again, I'll be checking the US dollar to make sure that this is obviously going to be congruent with the trades that I'm taking. You can see here, nice rounding and off. We've broken these highs, we've broken these highs. We're getting a small little, continuation pattern, I think. I don't think we're going to retrace, but if we do, I will be happy to look to take some buy positions back up into this supply zone. So as I'm looking at on USD Swiss, again I'm going to be looking at US dollar to make sure that that's still in line, and then of course we'll be looking for short positions up here. Now I did say that we are in the pullback phase, or I do believe that we are in the pullback phase of the dollar, so I do think that we will come back up to an area like this, then come back down, maybe even break that and then start to really cover some ground. But I still am bullish on the dollar overall. But again, you look in the weekly, we've not really moved considerable amounts, even though we have been pushing up. But right now we're just trying to make sense of what's actually happening on the lower time frames before we do start to get those big pushes away on the higher time frames. So USD JPY, again we are just looking to cover some of that ground, but to cover some of that ground we need some pushes and pulls on the lower time frames. So we do need some buying momentum to get that selling momentum, okay? We do need that shorter term, lower time frame buying momentum to get the wheels for the longer term selling momentum moves. So I do anticipate price action to come back up in an area like this, and that's where I'll be waiting around about that 115,300 handle to then take a sell position, just based on what we've already been speaking about. And then we can look to probably take targets somewhere around 113. 113 seems like a reasonable target, but again this will all have to materialise and we'll have to be monitoring this carefully when the market opens. So be sure to double check that everything is still if you're watching these videos, make sure everything is still congruent on the Tuesday and the Wednesday as it was today. So again, gold not really doing too much for me. Let's go to the 1 hour. Again, we are rounding it off. I do think we're going to break back below this trend here that we had already broken. Okay, we had broken that here, come back up. Now we've used it as support again, used it as support, but notice the way we're using it as support, we're really sticking to it now. So I do think we're going to get that push down, maybe even hit 1808, and then we can maybe look to get some more buyers back in. But I don't know if I would like to take a sell position on this, just because there's not really much of a gap in between these two. I'd probably wait for it to come back in line with the overall trend, and then we can look to take price action higher to back to these highs, probably, to be fair, back to these highs. But again, we're just going to have to be patient with gold. It could be a good setup, but patience pays, and right now I don't really see any point in hopping in a gold position because there's literally not enough room, and of course you do have to be a little bit smarter with your lot sizes and your positions, and if you're not used to taking gold positions, I would definitely not recommend taking a short position on this. So that's been everything that we're going to cover this week. It's everything we're going to be looking for. Hopefully there's going to be a lot more volume in the markets, because last week wasn't as normal, but it's definitely picked up compared to last week, and I do think it's going to progressively keep getting busier. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, make sure to reach out if there's anything that you don't understand, and if you have any questions, pop them in the comments below or reach out to us direct. We're very responsive and we would love to see some of your analysis. So until next week's weekly watch list, we'll speak to you soon.